Thank you for staying with us. Let's look at the papers now and check out what the top stories are. Looking at Daily Trust now, the big story there is on insecurity as parents of abducted Kaduna students cry out for help, saying we watched bandits shepherd our kids to the bush. Escapees recount near-death experience. My brother shot dead trying to save his siblings. And there are also some pictures of parents. There's a picture of an abductee, an escapee, and a parent. Of course, the government has said it will, come down hard on the perpetrators and has assured the parents of needed action in this regard. 2 months after AFCC president is silent on Betta Edu, who was the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, as well as the boss of the National Social Investment Authority, Halima Shehu. Also, more stories. FG denies budget pardon, false Ningi's allegations. And there is a story on all African Games. Nigerian female wrestlers scoop 6 gold medals. To the Punch now. Schools in 14 states. FCT risk attacks, says FG. Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, a host of other states, as well as FCT and Katsina are said to be affected. 465 pupils, women in kidnappers' den. It adds, federal government receiving U.S. support to free victims. Presidency alleges sub-regional forces behind kidnappings. Tinubu launches student loan on Thursday. Foreign scholars seek inclusion, and only foreign borrowing can save Naira, clear CBN debts. Naira devaluation fueling massive regional exports. These and more stories are on the front page of the Punch. On the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, it's captioned the biggest story, that is budget pardon, National Assembly increased 2024 budget. Tinubu only gave assent, says the presidency. There's been a back and forth now, but this is the latest from the presidency, that the president gave assent to an increment in this year's budget as done by the National Assembly. President Naseni launched portal for female engineers to access funding on food insecurity. Governors speak on strategies adopted to tackle hardship. And Governor Adeleke of Osun State is in the news, defending appointment of new Obas, insisting due process was followed. Leadership says alleged 3 trillion Naira budget pardon, public records contradict northern senators. That's on the Leadership newspaper. Presidency dismisses Ningi's claims lawmakers have the duty to scrutinize budget, says CSOs. The president signed what National Assembly transmitted to him, say experts. FG to patronize local contractors in road projects. And there we have it, Dave Umahi, the Minister of Works, also whose picture is splashed on the front page of the Leadership. At last, student loan scheme for launch Thursday. Borno confirms return of 9 IDPs. Mina Airport renamed after Tinubu. Troops clear 50 IPOB hideouts, kill 20 fighters, also on the Leadership. Daily Times says presidency northern senators bicker over alleged 3 trillion Naira budget pardon. No clues yet as bandits hold on to 502 abductees. And there is also the story of the president launching the student loan scheme, much awaited, and the D-Day is set to be for Thursday this week. The Revenue Allocation and Fiscal Commission, that's the RMAFC, calls for cutting governance costs, endorses a Runsai report, and Oyo State Governor Makinde calls for more prayers as Ramadan begins this Monday. First News, finally with me, says Northern Senators split as President slams Ningi, accusing him of making wild, unfounded allegations as 3 colleagues disagree with Northern Senators caucus leader on allegations against Tinubu. Akpabio Senate urged Ningi to rein in troublemakers and warned that, I quote now, "You cannot use us to blackmail budget process. done in good faith. Security agencies must act fast to curb attacks on schools. That's according to Tajuddin Abbas, Speaker of the House of Reps. Kidnappings, produce security master plan, change tactics, pirates, confraternity challenges Tinubu. And we are tackling food crisis, economic hardship. That's from the governors. Finally, with me, school abduction, sub-regional forces conspiring against government, Presidency alleges. And there is said to be a massive protest in Edo State over impeachment plot against Deputy Governor Shuaibu, as protesters urged the governor and the speaker to hearken to the people's voices declaring the impeachment plot as persecution. Theophilus, what do you have?
Okay, we'll start with the Nation newspaper from me. It says Presidency slams Senator over budget padding claim. And the writer says it's divisive antics to achieve primordial ends. 3 North senators kick. PENCOM didn't give federal government 10 trillion naira loan. Agency noted bank, says DG. Disco explains blackout in Kwara, Oyo, Ogun. 40,000 Ogun farmers get left. CBN screens bank's financial report for infraction. Of course, that's what we'll take in the Nation newspaper this morning. Let's move to this Nigeria. 30 trillion naira ways and means. Prosecute Buhari ex-ministers now. Lawyers, CSOs urge Tinubu's administration. Ex-presidents can be jailed if found guilty, says Zekome. Falana, Tinubu lacks political will to try him. President was part of Buhari's failure, says Adigburua. Senate to debate alleged 1.2 trillion naira 2024 budget padding tomorrow. We're not involved, says Presidency. Blocking phone lines of Nigerians over an NIN SIM linkage unlawful, says Serap. Military kills 20 IPOB fighters. Destroy 50 hideouts in Imo State, says DHQ. Jakba, federal government prohibits leave of absence for health workers. With health salaries, Sano Nasu begins 7-day warning strike from March the 18th. That's in this Nigeria this morning. The blueprint says here, Aronsoy report will cut government's cost, control inflation. Others, says RMAFC. We're tackling hike in food prices, says governors. Abuja housewives decry high cost of living. Presidency denies budget padding. Ningi risk suspension. Allegations baseless, says Senators Karumi Zam Shehu. Troops destroy IPOB Supreme Headquarters, kill 20. Sultan announces commencement of Ramadan today. Pay wages commensurate with current realities. NLC urges federal government. That's in Blueprint newspaper this morning. The Salient Times says we're taking steps to tackle food crisis, economic hardships as governors. Apapa appeals judgment, reinstates Abure as Labour Party chairman, calls for resignation of Harman Barker as appeal court judge. Lady drowns after jumping off boat in Lagos. Pleased to go after officer caught on camera assaulting a woman inside the Edo Police Command headquarters. Sano Nasu to begin 7-day warning strike March 18th over 4 months withheld salary. And PSC approves suspension of 2 ASPs for extorting $3,000 from travelers. That's in the Salient Times this morning. Nature News. Millions face food crisis in Nigeria, says CH report. Tinubu to launch food security agriculture mechanism agenda today. Nigeria can't fix current food inflation with monetary policy, says Additional. Azerbaijan vulnerable to climate change, says COP29 president. And that's it in the Nature News this morning. New Telegraph says here, signed death warrants for convicts execution, statesman tell governors. As condemned inmate figure rises to 3,306, call for review of cases on merit where necessary. Lagos to demolish structures on drainages in Apapa. Ramadan fasting begins today. Sultan of Sokoto announces. Lawyers how corruption in judiciary can be tamed. Sokoto abductions. No Nigerian should be in captivity. About stealth security agencies. Politics of empty treasury debt as federal government blames Buhari for economic crisis. Federal government suspends controversial EL policy amid OPS mounting pressure. And TCN declares system sabotage as terrorists vandalize Shiro Katampi towers. Presidency, Tinubu implemented 28.7 trillion naira 2024 budget as passed by National Assembly. That's in the New Telegraph newspaper this morning. The Platform Times says, special report, federal government pays 7.8 billion naira electricity bill to Abuja Disco in 5 years. State House settles 750 million naira bill in 3 years. NDLEA apprehends 2 grandfathers for drug trafficking in Borno State. Nigeria's wealthiest woman, Folorunsho Alakija, husband separates after 30 years of marriage. Sultan declares Monday, March the 11th as first day of Ramadan fasting. Nasarawa female minors speak out against harassment, sexual violence. Tinubu orders return of seized food items, emphasizes local market sales as Customs CG. Western nations orchestrating mass abduction in Nigeria, says ex-minister Fani Kayode. National economy says 150% surge in cement cost takes toll on housing sector. Reason fintech firms do not trust each other. Only 13 million Nigerians registered for electricity access, says NIP. Reviewing guidelines for MRCs, that's the National Economy newspaper this morning. Business Day says how Tinubu's executive orders strike at heart of corruption in oil sector. Nigeria's trade surplus shrinks 99.7% as imports hit 16-year high. Yields on Nigerian government debt spike after a rate hike. That's in Business Day this morning. And finally, from the Guardian newspaper, estimators peg exchange rate at 1,400 naira per dollar as naira finds fair value. And of course, you see the graph there of the naira value measurement. Federal government lawmakers fought budget padding claim. Huriwa urges probe. Delays, uncertainties in student loan scheme compound woes. Security agencies MAM as search for abducted Kuriga school pupils continue. The stem rising food prices and anger in the land. That's an editorial. NDLEA intercept illicit drug consignment in commercial bus engine. Arrest 2 grandpas. Serap asks NCCs to restore blocked phone lines. And of course, that's in the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, Theophilus there, and there you have it, all the papers, talking about divergent issues this Monday morning. Of course, the controversy over the alleged 3 trillion naira budget padding appears to be the most dominant report this morning, with the back and forth from the presidency and the Northern Senators bloc led by Abdul Ningi. Of course, this controversy also, according to some reports, is said to affect the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, as well as a host of other personalities. But it does appear worrying, even though the government has maintained its stance on the matter, that if at all there was any padding, it came from the lawmakers from the National Assembly. But of course, we understand that Akpabio, the Senate President, has said he's going to investigate these allegations when he was confronted with them by the Northern Senators. But well, we'll wait and see how it all pans out in the end.
We do wait and see. Of course, for me, we're looking at stories that is talking about food crisis and economic hardship. As the governors are saying, they're taking steps to tackle food crisis and economic hardship. Of course, we do want to see the fruition of those steps, not just giving palliatives to people and buying grains and food stuff at high price and selling at reduced price to Nigerians. But I think we need to see something much more long-lasting that can further reduce the prices of food. Of course, road construction is part of it, and of course, we need it's all encompassing, quite all right. But we need to see something done in these respects. Of course, millions. Nature News is saying millions face food crisis in Nigeria. Salient Times saying we're taking steps to tackle food crisis economic hardship, says governors, of course. So the situation there.
All right, and talking about that, we will also, get to have our session on, that topic to talk extensively on that during the course of the show, as well as bring in an expert to share his own views.